Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Music Show, which you may see on a Tuesday. You may see it on a Friday. I don't know if it's ever going to get uploaded, but on the off chance that it does get uploaded, you'll see it. Probably not on a Tuesday, though. I have, as always, Mr. Howie Darkstar is in the house. And Jay, who's distracted tonight. He's got stuff cooking. We'll talk about that. Let's go ahead and talk about that. It's Tuesday. It is August 24th, and we lost drummer of the Rolling Stones, Charlie Watts. And I'm trying to think, how long was he the drummer for the Stones?
From the beginning.
Well, I know from the beginning, but I'm just saying, how many years was that? I remember buying
62. So 59 years.
That sounds about right. I remember getting a lot of the Rolling Stones 50th anniversary year that was on clearance, but I got a lot of it, and it was a minute ago. So, but yeah, it was close to 60 years.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't think it's, and as we get older, everyone else above us, which is the part of life that sucks, in my opinion, that everyone above you gets older too. And it's less about sometimes the individual as it is about the reality. And the reality being that everything you're into harkens back to something else. You often hear people talk about Ed Sullivan show with the Beatles as being this great ground. I mean, there's probably 100 bands that you and I know who use that as the watermark of how they got into music. And I think anytime we lose somebody from the old days of music, there's that moment of like, damn, without them, I wouldn't have this. Or it's just the reality of getting older.
We are. Well, I'm sorry, Howie, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, or even be where we are.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm going to do a set tomorrow, 2 hours solid. Try not to play the hits of just Rolling Stones music. Because, you got to think of their career. This is the other thing, Brian. Very few bands today, a lot of bands have made a great career out of, we put out 4 albums in the 80s, and we've been touring those 4 albums ever since.
Yeah.
It goes back to, have you done 20 years of weddings, or have you done one wedding, 500 times over 20 years? The Stones are one of those few anomaly bands that actually put out new product.
Oh,
it might take 3, 4, 5 years, but they actually wrote songs and put out new things and then would tour it.
Well, they were like top 40 radio relevant for probably the better part of, I would say, 30 years anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When they're out
and also they're one of the, I think they're the only band that charted in 6 different decades.
Yeah. I can't think of anyone else that did.
Well, I know Cliff Richard did 7 over in the UK, but that was different. That was
okay.
Chart.
Well, there's 2 things that we don't need to talk about: the UK or Cliff Richard. Oh! Am I going to kill our 2 people that were? No, I'm just kidding. No, but that's a different musical mentality over there.
Yeah,
we don't have that.
It's single sales, and they'll make a big thing about it on the BBC. Go out and buy the Christmas single, because it's gonna, you want to be number 1 at Christmas. It's more of a fanfare thing. They're a lot more involved. It's kind of cool how they do it over there. But
I think it's super cool. I think the fact that Elvis can have a hit, going on 40 years after he died.
Yeah, they do that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, like suddenly a song, but it shows the diversity over there, which I certainly respect.
Yeah, they do support their music community over there. Single sales aren't so much a thing anymore, but they were, even going back 15 years, they were still a thing. What I wanted to talk about with Charlie was something that he did that I think is unique. And I'm not aware, and Jay, you may be, Howie, you definitely may be aware of anyone else who actively did this. But it was my understanding, and because there was something about a Stones song that didn't sound like anything else. And there are certain things you just can't put your finger on why, but it just is. And I had read one time, or maybe I heard, I don't remember, that you're a drummer, Howie, and usually you're leading the band. The band is following you. is how it typically
We
works.
set the pace.
Right. My understanding was in the Stones, Charlie followed Keith on guitar. So what that did was it created this really unique sound. Now, as a drummer, Howie, how difficult would it be to follow a guitar player as a drummer?
I did try that a few times, and it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult. The only other drummer I know that would follow a guitar player would be Nick Mason from Pink Floyd. He would have to follow the lead guitar player.
Okay.
You know, whether
David
it was
Gilmour.
whether it was Gilmore or Waters, you know.
I mean, I think we're all in agreement. It's usually bass and drummer, the rhythm.
Right.
Charlie Watts was like a metronome.
Yeah, but he was following Keith. My understanding is this is a really cool sound when you can pull it off, and it's kind of a blues influence thing.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah. And if you can't pull it off at train wrecks, it's over.
Well, just listen to any Stone song. You'll hear the guitar, and you can almost see them, the two of them looking at each other like, and Keith goes like this, then Charlie hits the downbeat.
You're right.
So the downbeat, like normally with bands, you find that singers are famous for being offbeat. Like if you listen closely, a lot of singers aren't on the beat. They're a little behind it.
Right.
And if they do it for effect, it's amazing.
Right. Rock and roll.
Like Etta James could do it. Aretha Franklin could do it.
Right.
But your average pop band, if you're off beat, you suck.
Right.
The Stones had this like dun, tsh, 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 like it was always a backbeat. So everyone on stage got to fall into his pocket because he started late. I mean, it's kind of amazing. Like you say, he created a pocket that everyone like bent back into. Normally the drummer's like 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, tsh, boom, tsh, and everyone jumps into that.
Oh,
yeah, I agree, with the exception of Honky Tonk Women. That intro.
Yes, that's the only time that's a great example.
That's the only song I can think of where it's like, whoa, when you hear that, everybody instantly knows what's coming on.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
no, totally.
Beats, oh, Honky Tonk Women. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And
I thought that was, we could talk about our mortality all day long, which, we can absolutely do that. But I thought it would be interesting to kind of examine, who this person was as an artist and the contribution and a lot of people don't know the name Charlie Watts. Okay, we do. But
we do. There's an age group that doesn't. And
okay, my mother, who incidentally is also 80, Charlie was 80. She knows who Keith Richards is, and she knows who Mick Jagger is. And when I called her today, you hear about Charlie Watts, and she says, "Who?" He's the one they don't think about. But those were the 3 founding members.
Right. And by all accounts, he was the voice of reason during their wild, alcohol and drug fueled days. So much so that everybody was been putting up this meme with the story about when Mick called him up in the middle of the night and said, "Where's my drummer?" And he hung up the phone. He got dressed, put on a suit. He knocked on Mick's door and punched him right in the mouth. And he said, "Don't you call me your drummer. You're my singer." And that's a legendary story that they can't really verify, but it's been going around for years.
Oh, there's and I love those side stories of the Stones. And this isn't a story, it's an actual fact. He didn't drive, but he had a huge car collection.
Really?
And what he would do is he would have the interior of the car. He would go to a tailor and have suits made to match the interiors.
He was big on suits. Yeah.
Yeah. So he would end up going out because he would rather drink than drive. And he wasn't excessive, but you have 2 choices. Do you want to drive yourself in this like killer Rolls Royce, or do you want to sit in the back and have a cocktail? I'll stay in the back. So he would have these suits made from whatever the seat pattern was or the color combination. And then he would wear those outfits when he went in those cars. I mean, he was very eclectic. But again, like you said, Brian, you have to look at who influences who down the road.
Right.
You know, I oftentimes will bring up Robert Johnson, and there's a certain age cutoff where people go like, I don't think I know him. Was he at Expo? Is he like, he does weddings in my, like, what's?
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. But if you look at the history of music, there is no Prince, Stones, The Who, Hendrix, like, I don't, BTS, I don't care who you, Pink, Lady Gaga, it all funnels backwards. That's the beauty of music. Music started here and it went this way. And you can go back to classical, but there's those key moments. The Robert Johnson one album that every guitar player that's respected calls upon as, oh, this is what I'm into. You know, and I think the Stones, whether they know it or not, and whether people know it or not, some guy in his, you know, garage or bedroom one day went like, ooh, I like that he does this. Because if you ever see videos, Charlie Watts just sat there smiling. I mean, the only other drummer I can think of would be Phil Rudd of AC/DC. Those are the two drummers I always use as an example of a metronome.
Well,
you know, Neil Peart is an amazing drummer, or was an amazing drummer, but Charlie Watts and Phil Rudd, they got a pocket and they never deviated. Like, listen to Back in Black.
That was Ringo too.
Ringo.
Too. Yeah, no, Ringo was the same way.
That's why he got hired, because he would have that backbeat, and that's why they hired him. And he would replace the fifth Beatle because he played on time, and Ringo came in and did the backbeat, and they went, whoa, we got something here.
Yeah, maybe just solid metronome, like Jay says. Just not Neil Peart. Neil Peart was on another level.
He was all over the place, and he was an amazing drummer.
He played in different time signatures.
He could do stuff nobody else could.
Yeah.
I've heard somebody say about, we got to go fix this song, and it's like, wait, no, you fix the song. No, they did these things on purpose for, you know, dramatic effect, and, you know, no, don't fix it. I
mean, I've never been a drummer, but I always loved what was happening in the Stones music, and you know, as far as drumming goes, when I think about drummers who I think are neat, when I think of a style that is hard to duplicate, Phil Collins, and you know, oddly enough, Lenny Kravitz, I think that he's got his own style of drumming, and he's not a drummer per se, but nobody drums like Lenny Kravitz. And the same thing I could say about Charlie Watts. It's just a unique. And following Keith, I just thought that was amazing. And that's, I think, the core of what a lot of that stuff is. It sounds so different. Why? But I mean, you know, you think of, I don't know, when I think of the Beatles, I think of a band that happened before my time, because they did. They broke up before I was born, or shortly after I was born. I don't remember which. I remember Wings, and I remember Lennon and George Harrison, and maybe even a Ringo tune or two being popular. Stones have been ever present, you know. They were there before my time and well after. In fact, they were there. I mean, I was just at the beginning. It was when I showed up. So, I mean,
yeah, I've seen them a couple dozen times, and it's always a great show.
Yeah,
they're, you know, in just my experience, I have not experienced a bad show. They kind of set the bar very high for other bands, and the new bands that they worked hard at that, and they toured and toured and toured for what I guess 50, 60 years now. There's, you know, I mean, they toured, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago they did a tour. They have a tour now. Charlie Watts has been sick, and he said, I'm not going to make the tour. But the Stones were like, we're still going to go.
Right.
And that was an agreement that they all had. I mean, you know, you think of, you know, Ron Wood is the newest member who joined in 1973.
Was it 73?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they'd already gone through 2 guitar players, Brian Jones, the original member, and then Mick Taylor, who joined and then left. I mean, I look back and every period of their career, you know, there's music that you hear and just go, oh, it's a great song. I mean, like the Some Girls album, granted, I was at that age. I was in high school and like, oh man, what great songs. Like the whole thing, you know, like there was that period. But then if you talk to older people than even me, because there are some alive that are older than me.
Wow.
You know, exactly. They talk about like Exile on Main Street.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have yeah.
You know, and you look back on it and you think, and I think it's a good lesson for DJs in general. Don't always think of, oh, this is the big hit and this is why they're famous. Realize that there's 100, maybe 1,000 bands in front who without this one don't exist. You know, not because they came first as much as they came first and they showed their influences. I mean, the very first Stones album, I think, has one original song, if that.
Yeah,
it's all covers.
True. They were a blues cover band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were doing like Red House and Old Howlin' Wolf and, you know, Dust My Broom by Robert Johnson. I mean, they were a cover band for blues.
I think it was McCartney who was like, maybe you guys should try writing some of your own songs. Because you're pretty good. We like you. Why don't you try?
Well, I mean, Brian, let me ask you, if you could go back in time to any time and get there before the song showed up and take credit for it, I doubt it would be in the last 10 or 15 or maybe even 20 years.
No.
You know, and you look back and go like, wow, man, Satisfaction, you know, Stairway to Heaven. I mean, for me, Gimme Shelter is by far my favorite Stone song, and I've probably heard 100 different versions of it by them.
Yeah.
And every one has been amazing.
It's good, but I mean, I don't know. I really I've made no secret. I don't really get too excited about music that was recorded before I was born. The Stones would be an exception. I love the 60s Stones stuff.
Yeah. It's great music.
Now, did any of you guys ever have the Hot Rocks that was their early greatest hits?
Right.
Yeah.
And they went on to make so much more music. They could do 2 more greatest hits albums standing away from the Hot Rock stuff.
I bought a greatest hits. It was an import, and it was probably I don't know.
Was it Made in the Shade? The Girl in the Chaise Lounge by the pool?
I have Made in the Shade. I have a copy of that back here. No, I'm talking about that CD that I bought. It was an import. I bought it new. It was called Jump Back, and it was a British import and it had a picture. I think it was a picture of like Doc Martens on the front of it or something like that. And it was like 70 something through maybe 90 greatest hits. So they did several of them. I mean, you could. And yeah, I mean, it's an industry really when you consider the catalog. But I thought maybe it might be fun to talk about some just great Stones songs and why they're great. You know, kind of like how we do with music. Let's do an all Stones one for a while.
Why not? I mean, I think there's enough different types of music within one band, and that's a rarity as well. Well, there's shuffles, there's disco, there's Latin.
Yeah, the disco thing is debatable. There's blues. Howie is already knowing what I'm talking about here with that.
Oh, I know where you're going to go. Some Girls.
No, well, yeah, but
what about Harlem Shuffle?
Harlem Shuffle is an 80s song. It's a blues song, but it's very 80s production wise and
right. But I'm saying you can argue. I mean, Some Girls has had disco remixes up and down the street.
Yeah, but I mean that's not what they recorded. I mean, like,
is it because they say Puerto Rican girls? Just come to the truth, Brian. It's the whole Puerto Rican Boricua thing that's got you freaked out. I know.
I love the song.
No, he's not freaked out. What his take on it is that it's a blues track, not a disco song.
Right.
And if it was a couple beats slower, I agree with him. It is a blues track, but I think it's sort of like Kiss. I Was Made for Loving You, which is slowed down a good rock song. Sped up becomes disco.
That's damn near disco. But
no, it is. But if you sped up Some Girls a little bit, as like Hex Hector's remix is, you got a disco track.
You can remember Rapture Writers? I mean, my God, you can make anything dance, but it was recorded as a blues song. It was remixed as other things, but it was recorded as a blues song.
Well, you take Blondie's Heart of Glass. Oh, considered
reggae tune, yeah.
song, but it's a reggae song. Come on.
Well, they did record it as a disco song though, but
Right. And then they
Stones,
remixed. Yeah.
to my knowledge, never recorded "Miss You" as a disco song. Somebody may have gone and played around with it. You could say the same thing about "Emotional Rescue" or "Shattered" or whatever. They've got that beat to it, but they weren't disco songs. So, who wants to talk about a great Stones song first, instead of debating whether "Miss You" is a disco song or a blues song? Which, by the way, I win on that. It's a blues song.
Well, go ahead, Jay.
I will say one of the most powerful tracks I heard by them, as much as I love "Give Me Shelter," and there's probably 10 songs behind it, the song that is a memory song for me with them is a song called "Heartbreaker," because it's got a vibe to it. And if you've never heard it, just look up Rolling Stones "Heartbreaker," and you may see it listed as "Do Do Do."
Yeah.
Because there's this, ever present like do 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 like thing going on. But, just lines like, there's a boy in New York City. Like just the lyrical content and the vibe of it and the Mick Taylor guitar work. It's an amazing song. I mean, it's really about a kid getting killed in New York City and how the city's cold and doesn't care. And it just, at the time in the 70s, it was very, kind of poignant for the moment, I thought.
Speaking of, what was your first one?
Give Me Shelter.
Give Me Shelter. Yes.
Now, are we going favorite song or
just what
pleasure
whatever
list?
you like? Whatever you like is fine.
I mean, but that's the thing. It's like the ones I liked never became big hits.
That's
I know
fine.
Give Me Shelter was, but
Tell
like
what you like and why.
Heaven's an amazing, pretty much, I call it an instrumental, even though it's not, because it's very little lyrical content within it.
We'll come back to you on that. But what I was going to ask you, Jay, is if you ever saw the documentary film 20 Feet from Stardom.
No,
I haven't either.
I haven't either.
It's about all of the background singers. You've heard their voices, but you don't know who they are, what they look like, or anything else.
What's the girl that did "Give Me Shelter"? Because I've seen her interviewed.
I don't remember her name.
Like Mary something, I think.
She's in the documentary, and she's talking about that.
Yeah, she had curlers in her hair when they called her at like 2 in the morning.
Right,
she showed up, and it was like one take. She did that. She's like, "Wait, I'm a gospel song. Rape, murder." Yeah, whatever. Okay, go.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, murder. Like, and just nails it.
Yeah. It's pretty
20 Feet from Stardom. I got to look that up, Brian. Thanks for
20 Feet from Stardom. She tells that story in that documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to look that up.
Go ahead, Howie. I'm sorry. What's yours?
I'm going to go with pleasure listening. I mean, it's not something I would really play out, but Wild Horses.
Oh, nice.
I mean, it's just like, it changes so much. It's one of those songs that, don't fix it. Don't remix it. It's just a great standalone pleasure listening song to me.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah. And they all get a chance to shine on that. It's minimalistic. It's not like, real fancy guitar riffs. It's just the right notes at the right time and let them breathe. Let that note breathe,
I'm trying to think, when we're talking about famous bands, I'm trying to think of who was able to come in after they had been around for 20 years and knock it out of the park. I mean, completely knock it out of the park. Critically acclaimed. Not only that, but popular. The masses dig it too. Who the hell did that after 20 years?
Aerosmith. Yeah,
but Aerosmith had a break.
No, I'm not disputing that. I'm saying, but bands that could have a start with a career and do really well, then kind of fade a little bit, but then come back. I mean, you have to look to Aerosmith with "I Don't Want to Miss a Thing" in the late 90s.
Yeah, well,
I mean, that changed the schematics.
I just don't. I don't know.
I mean, it did. There's no arguing that they didn't have a second wave of popularity that was almost greater than their first wave.
Sure.
And I think the Stones got to a certain level and maintained. Like the Who had that Eminence front in the the early 80s stuff, but then it just kind of they became nostalgic.
Well, what I was trying to get at was that the Stones never had a fade period. I mean,
No.
didn't happen.
No.
But an amazing album, and I think my generation's Rolling Stone album is Tattoo You. That is just a fantastic piece of work.
It's a great album. Yeah.
And it's chock full of hits. I mean, really good songs.
Yeah.
There's so many good tracks on that album.
And then my generation, it was Sticky Fingers. I mean, and I was one of the few that got the album with the zipper on it. And they said they only made a few, and they made that first one, and they said they could not afford to make that album cover. They were losing money. So that's
you say you have one. So do you both have one?
Yeah,
I used to have one. I'm not sure if
do you know what that's probably? I don't know. Brian will know because he's down with the vinyl.
I don't know.
I would assume it's worth a couple bucks.
I know my most valuable album that I own right now is Exile on Main Street.
Really?
Original pressing of that. Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's the most valuable album that I own. It's 400 and some bucks. Today it's going to cost more.
But that's the thing. Like art. Art always goes up when the artists die. Mine is Prince Black album that I have 10 copies of sitting right here. But that's neither here nor there. Neither here nor there.
I was just thinking about just a simple song, and I've argued over the years, and you guys have heard my argument that the Stones belong to the U.S. now. They're our band because there was a time in history where they were very much a New York band. They were singing about New York. They were recording in New York, and that's one of the Stones periods that I love. Not the only one, but one that I really do love and appreciate. And I'm thinking about songs like "Waiting on a Friend." It's just
great track.
It's just a great song.
They're second only to Billy Joel for selling out Madison Square Garden.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. Oh my God, they'd come. It was what was so cool about it was, at least for me, because I had a little in, that they would do 5 nights at the Garden, sold out in a couple of hours. People we used to wait in line for tickets at Ticketmaster, and I went several nights, and it was just always great.
There's so much going on. I mean, you've got the Keith thing going on. You've got the Charlie thing going on, but you got the Mick thing going on. My God, the guy is he's a cartoon. You know?
I cannot believe that he's still running around.
Still does that stuff. I know.
Still does it.
I have no idea.
What is he, 75, 76?
He's in his 70s, yeah.
Well, no, they're all 70s.
Was
Charlie was the oldest, I believe.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Actually, Bill Wyman is older than Charlie. I know that. So I think Bill Wyman's like 82, 83.
Wow.
Like he's even older, but he hasn't been in the band in, my God, 30 years, 20 years, something like that. But I think where it's important in the context of the show for DJs to realize is you're playing the new Cardi B song now, and next month you're going to play the new Dua Lipa song now, and then you're going to play the new, whatever song now. You're gonna, if you want to really be the DJ, you got to know these catalogs to a certain extent, because when you get that, 60th birthday party and 65th and 50th wedding anniversary, and you suddenly decide to go down the Rolling Stones Avenue and the Who and the Kinks and the Animals, if you have this on the back burner in your, talent base, you're gonna hit gold. You're gonna absolutely strike gold. Like it's not enough to say, "Oh, I can play Journey from Escape in 1982," which was 200 years ago. Yeah, there it is.
There you go.
That's a great. I have that on vinyl too.
I have that one. Yeah,
yeah. That's a great album. Brown Sugar's on that. It's a great album. Oh, there you go.
Get my money right here.
Now he's showing off.
I think the thing about the Stones was, they were much like Bowie to a certain extent. Bowie was ahead of the fashion curve because Bowie became part of it. I look
Bowie. but I couldn't
What's
get
that?
it edgewise. But
Yes.
Bowie was the same guy who. This is I got this in Germany, so this is a German pressing of this. But Bowie was the only other guy I could think of who had that kind of creative, just curve that was insane. Did all this stuff.
Yeah.
Had this body of work where it was okay. This is kind of almost country, and this is definitely rock, and this is funk. The Stones did it too.
But would you not agree? You always knew it was the Stones. I think that's the thing I've always liked about Stones. Yeah. This is disco-y, but it's the Stones. You can tell. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of, this is very, funky, but it's still the Stones. Like, they were able to adapt to the music, whereas Bowie, to me, would change the music and say, here I am doing this, and I'm ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And I mean, the allure of Keith Richards and Mick Jagger is really being the definitive in the world of music. And I challenge both of you to name someone else. The definitive pair on stage, it goes to Mick and Keith. There is no predecessor. There are people after that, famously Steve Tyler and Joe Perry. But before Keith and Mick as a pair on stage, there is
fair because that was the beginning of time. So,
but that's what I'm saying. You can't go back to the 50s and say, "Oh, Bill Haley and like Scott Jones." No, that didn't happen.
Well, you had I don't know how far they were contemporaries or they were before them, but I'm thinking Everly Brothers, Righteous Brothers.
Yeah, but they were brothers. They were two guys playing guitar on stage as brothers. That's a little different. I'm saying in a band situation where two guys suddenly became the front men.
Yeah,
AC/DC. Look at AC/DC with Angus and Brian.
What bands do you really have before them? I'm thinking about this really hard. You had like artists featuring this act. So you had Bill Haley in the Comets and you had Buddy Holly in the Crickets. But was there a band?
No.
Howie, help me out here.
Lennon and McCartney.
Well, Beatles,
but they weren't synonymous. They were synonymous with its writers. I don't think they were synonymous as a pair.
Well,
my point is, you look at a lot of bands where you see the singer and the guitarist have a certain interaction. I think the Stones invented that. I think the Stones invented because a lot of bands, the singer's over here and the band is over here. With the Stones, it was the two of us are now coming forward.
I mean, I'm talking about the generations of music. I mean, I know the Beatles were first and the Stones followed shortly after, but there was no band before that. I mean, as a band, and again, you had singing groups,
right?
You had singers featuring a backing band, but you didn't have a band. I think Beatles and Stones were the ones that kind of popped everybody's cherry on that.
Well, and I think the Beatles were the safe group. And the Stones were the bad boys.
They were the bad boys.
And I think there's always been that allure of the bad boys. Hence, when you go forward and you see a Motley Crue thank the Stones, and you're like, wait, what?
So can we blame them for Cardi B then? Because it's like...
No, I think we can blame
They only get the good, they don't get the bad? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. By the way, in the comments, I'd love to see everyone's choice on their favorite Stones song.
And hearkening back to setting a trend and a style, I think they set the style for arena rock shows. I can remember in the early 80s seeing the tour where they had that lotus flower, and this was at Madison Square Garden, and the lights go down, and then all of a sudden this lotus flower lights up on stage, and it unfolds. And as it unfolds into like six different points, there's Mick at the very point, and he's following it down, and he stands up and he's at the edge of the flower, and they go right into the song, and it's like, now this is arena rock right here.
Well, before we go any further, I just want to caution us: this is not the end of the Rolling Stones.
No.
So I feel like we're writing an obituary tonight. This is not what's happening. We lost Charlie Watts.
No, they already were planning the tour without him because he was
that's what I'm saying. I mean,
So I guarantee. I mean, I will say this as a side note for a band that's been around not as long but getting there. I was a little surprised to see that ZZ Top hit the stage literally 7 days after their bass player died. But again, they'd had some sort of an arrangement. And Billy Gibbons said, like, hey, we got, Boss Hogg over here on the bass because we all agreed like we wouldn't stop.
Eric Wilson will hunt me down and kill me for saying this, but Billy Gibbons is ZZ Top.
Oh no, he is.
Get another guy in a beard. Get another guy with a mullet, glasses, and a mustache. True. You got ZZ Top.
Well, because
no,
that's an '80s phenomenon too. Because '70s, I think Dusty sang almost as much as Billy did.
Yeah.
'80s, it became Billy. Yep. LaGrange is Billy. Tush is Dusty.
Right.
So you had like my first album with them was like Tres Hombres or Fandango.
When was the last time you heard Tush perform live, though? I mean, like that. It's
whatever video I got to see them on YouTube. And that's the other fascination now. I think, today we mark an era ending and everyone can run to YouTube. In our day, we had to go to the store and be like, oh, damn, I don't have their greatest hits. I should go buy it. Like, this is the convenience of where we are today in music. Like, as an example, not to, bring up manufacturers, but we announced today with Pioneer DJ that Rekordbox now offers for $24 a month subscription, unlimited storage with Dropbox. So me being me, I said, well, I have 200 terabytes of music. Can I store it? And the answer was very quickly given. Yes, it's unlimited.
Right.
I was like, what does that actually mean? They're like,
it means
there is no stopping. I'm like, seriously? So if I own a company and I need 200 terabytes, you'll store it for $24 a month? They're like, yes. I'm like, no one else, again, this is how music is now delivered and consumed. And, it's not what it once was in the way of holding a piece of vinyl, that's it. Where you could hold it, listen to it, read the liner notes and all that. But yeah, I think that, the effect that the Rolling Stones have had on music in general. Well, look up Lady Gaga singing Give Me Shelter. Like, why would Lady Gaga want to jump on stage with the Rolling Stones? And by the way, the best part is they literally look at her on stage, the members of the band, while she's singing like just another chick singing. It's not like a big deal to them. Like, we've been there, done that. Like, we've done this 8,000, Altamont.
There's this tenacious spirit that they have that I can appreciate, and unfortunately I'm relating to, where, and what I mean by that is, and this is
because you're the bad boy of mobile DJs, Brian. Howie and I talked about it last night when you left. We all agreed. Brian is kind of the Keith of the DJ world.
Well, what I was going to say is, I went out and I did those 2 events last weekend, which I had no business doing.
See, that's why.
And I didn't make a secret of it in the video. Part of the reason I did it was just to show you guys I could. I had no business doing them, but I was just doing them to say, hey, look what I can do. And sometimes I wonder if the Stones are doing the same thing. It's like, Jesus, have you looked at the calendar lately? Why are we doing this? We're rich.
I think their attitude is,
let's just do it to show people we can do it. Okay.
No, that's exactly. But that's why you did it too, because you can.
Yeah.
And what it all comes down to is, how badly do you love the music? How badly do you want to be a DJ?
I was just
you want to be a DJ badly enough.
Right.
I was just going to go there. It's the passion. Why are we doing what we do? Why did I put all that into like beret, and then, Brian calling me a road dog, like boom, 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 barking, like everything. It's like, I loved it. I live for that, and people still want me. The same thing with the Rolling Stones. People still want to see them. They sell out, boom, in a heartbeat. They're going to go and do it. They have a passion for it.
Right. Because you can't.
By the way, the last time I saw them live, here were the 2 opening acts. 1999. So the reason I specify the year is because I want you to think of the products that the 2 opening acts had put out. The first act on stage was Sheryl Crow.
Okay.
The next act was a guy named Carlos Santana.
Yeah.
as in
All right, good.
fresh off winning like 7 Grammys for Supernatural.
Was Supernatural 99?
Well, it was earlier, but my point is,
Yeah, you're right. It was a
He
little
had gone from, hey, Black Magic Woman, and hey, I do this, and hey, I do that, and all of a sudden he goes Supernatural and blows up.
Yeah.
And he was the opener for the Stones. Then the Stones come out, and by the way, it was raining in San Diego at Jack Murphy Stadium, and you know what the Stones did? They just walked out and played in the rain because they're the freaking Rolling Stones. So now you say, but Jay, that's the way bands work. So he died today at 80,
Right.
which meant he was playing in the rain at 60, which is very young for those of you watching the show tonight. Anything 60, 57, it's very young. So that would explain.
Gosh. I was having this conversation with, was it Sporn? David Sporn? Is
David Sporn.
Dave Sporn? Yeah. We were talking about, well, somebody mentioned something about boomer music. And I think Justin Schwartz jumped in. What do you mean? What's boomer music? And then we just started listening it. It's like, it is. And it's not bad music. But by association, I think if you're younger than a boomer and all you hear are boomers telling you how awesome their music is and how much your music sucks all the time, you start to resent it after a while. That it's overplayed. You've been listening to the crap for your whole life. And when you do, they get really righteous about it and, dramatic about it, in public. And anyway, Dave pops up and says, well, okay. So back in the old days, were you like playing music from the 40s? It's like, yeah, we were. It was Glenn Miller and it was Frank Sinatra, pop standards, and it was Ink Spots. I've got a whole
Platters
music for people who are dead. There's no one alive who wants to hear this, or no one alive who's going to ask for it at a mobile event.
No,
and we riffed a little bit on it, and it kind of came around to you got to understand, because a lot of it's mellow. It's pretty mellow, and he thought that was funny. And I'm like, well, you got to remember that it was a very different dynamic, because you had men coming home from World War II in Korea, and they wanted some calm and peace in their life. And it was, they were listening to this stuff, when they were, doing the I always screwed up the USO dances. They were hearing this stuff, and they were hearing this stuff just to relax at home, put on the record player of their new little house with the 2.5 kids.
Yeah, and the white picket fence.
And they were married, and they were happy to have the kids, and they wanted to be grown-ups and get a life. But it seems like the generation after that, the boomer generation, it's like this Peter Pan thing. They don't ever want to get old. They want to be little kids their whole life, forever. And that's what I hear.
Why are you disparaging Jay and I like that?
I know, isn't that terrible?
What's up with him, Jay?
I got gray hair. I'm a grandfather, and I own it, man. I totally own this. I'm cool with it. Somebody made a post.
You're older
today.
than Howie and I, because we don't have grandkids. So
somebody made a post today, and they said, "Do you realize that just as much time?"
Oh, don't even start with the 1939
and 1980,
2021,
right?
Yeah.
And my comment on there was, "It's amazing when old people become self-aware."
Yeah, I think
and it is.
Well,
just own it, man.
I'm the first to say. I will say it out loud. I mean, last week's show, I looked. We had 3.7 million views of that show,
right.
So I'm sure this one will be bigger. And I'll say it out in front of everyone here in YouTube land. The reality is, you will always feel your time was better. Like, I go back to my high school time of Aerosmith and Ted Nugent and Kiss and Rory Gallagher and this and this and this. And I go, ooh, this was better than what you've got. And I think now, today, though, for the first time, like, I may walk through Winco one day and hear Cat Scratch Fever as an instrumental by Vitamin Strings. But I'm just telling you kids now, WAP and anything by Megan Thee Stallion, that ass ain't going to fly. I'm sorry, kids. No one's going to sit down in 30 years and go, I remember I met your mom and WAP was playing and I knew I loved her. Yeah, if you met her on a pole,
Inaudible.
I'm just saying. Now everyone's going to like kick back. Put it in the comments. Send your emails to bsr@jaystalkingtoomuch.gmail and you're good. But really, like,
You're shaking your cane at the sky today, man.
I kind of am, because
Why?
I hate, you know why? I'll be honest with you.
You had
and
a
it's
good, however
No.
old you are, years. Yeah.
You know what it is? It's my own mortality, Brian. It's like anything else. When they start going, when you know people in respects to admiration or respect or emulation, when they start going, you have to every once in a while stop and say, shit, like he wasn't that old. No, he was 80 and he's dead. But I remember seeing them, and your life is affected, and it's affected in a negative. But then instantly you think back to how it was affected to begin with, and you go, but fortunately, we always have the music.
Well, I disagree with the negative. And the reason I disagree with the negative is because it's been my personal experience that this is the answer to everything. Because our whole lives, we're preparing to carry the torch for someone else.
Oh, no.
We really
Here
are.
we go.
We really are.
Here we go. I know
No,
where he's
it's true.
going.
It's true.
No, it is true.
I am now the guy in my family, and I can never be as great as him, but I'm the guy in my family that my father was, because I'm looking at
no, and okay,
and
that
I'm the
aspect
voice
I
of
agree.
reason. So
Yes.
so it's okay, because the man prepared me for this the best he could, and I'm doing the best I can.
Right.
It's the circle of life, man, and it's kind of a beautiful thing.
And I
It's
said
my
that in the
time.
beginning, Brian, about
It
as you
is.
get older, they get older above you, and that's
Yeah,
what
they
sucks.
do.
That's the part of life that sucks.
80 is not a ripoff.
Like if I got to design the world, I mentioned 4-day work week, no bras, they'd be illegal, and bars would be open 24/7 everywhere, and free drinks. So just if you need to vote for the next god, just saying. But
see, he
know,
just goes over the top. He just doesn't.
I went a little heavy there.
He does.
But the thing is, it's that slap in the face of, wait a second, I just bought that album the other day, or wait a second, I just saw them in concert.
It didn't help.
You
Died
don't,
anyway.
you don't want to face that. I mean, YouTube is on the other computer right now, and there's a shot I'm staring at right now of Eddie Van Halen, because that was the video that was playing. Well, he's dead. He's gone. I remember buying Van Halen 1. I remember sitting there and dropping the needle and hearing Eruption and literally losing my mind.
Oh, everybody did. Everybody did.
You don't want things to stop. And the sad part for me is, and this is a critical statement about today's music, there is no replacement. When I said this famously in April of 1990, when I got to see Michael Schenker at Spit on a Tuesday with Andy and Andy Marr, and I can't remember who the other guy was, but there was 3 of us that went. And the first 2 acts were a Boston and New York band. And the third act, before Michael Schenker and Robin McCauley, band comes out and they look like the Stones. And they were running wild on stage. Third song, the lead singer goes, "Hey man, thanks so much, Boston. It's our first tour. You guys may know this song. It's on MTV. This is a song called Jealous Again." And I go, "Oh my God, it's the fucking Black Crowes." Like, they were killer. And I got to see them on that first tour. Well, there is no other band after that you kind of go back to and say, oh, it's okay that this band goes away because I've still got this. There aren't new bands now that I think are hot and hungry and heavy, because the music industry has changed so dramatically. That's the issue. It's not even the talent, it's the industry. Back in our day,
you give him a mic.
bands toured because they had to sell albums. Now bands give away music and stream it and hope that you come see them on tour.
It's a different game. I don't know.
Totally different.
But unfortunately, fortunately, you were there to see it before it changed. But yeah, it's changed, and we've got a lot of cool music to listen to, and once in a while, something really cool does come out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm done judging art on Picasso. I mean, I just can't do it anymore because there's so many great artists from way back. I can't look at Weekend and say, wow, he's no Paul McCartney. I can't do that. I can look at Weekend and say, hey, this is cool. Am I going to compare it to Paul McCartney? No, I'm not going to do that. But I didn't compare McCartney to Cole Porter either. And I didn't compare Cole Porter to Mozart.
That's
what's the point of doing that?
Yeah, that's a great
point. Take it
point.
for what it is and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And on that note, damn it, voice of reason. I hate it. See, told you I took over from Dad. Couldn't help it. He made me do it. We'll see you next time. And it might be a Tuesday and it might not be a Tuesday. And we might be fired. You may never see us again. So thank you for watching.
My lawyer says we're not getting fired.
Good.